So this particular conversation, as I told you, is going to be centered around innovating the future. What exactly is innovation? Sometimes when we look at the present technology, it feels that the ease, the convenience, and the connectivity, it kind of just brings to mind that everything that we needed has perhaps already been invented. So is there room for improvement? Is there room for innovation? And the most important debate that the academia right now is having, how do you equip this present and the coming generations with the right skills to be able to innovate? How do we make them into thinkers and challengers and innovators? How do they come up and cater to new ideas? The whole, the way we look at life, the way we have a worldview, a lot of you may have questioned it and said that perhaps we don't give people room to question. So these will be some of the prominent themes. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Country Managing Director, Pakistan and Afghanistan of SAP, Mr. Saquib Ahmad, who will be moderating this conversation. And joining him for this very powerful conversation, you are the President and the CEO of HPL and the Vice Chairman of the Pakistan Business Council. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb. Gentlemen, your theme is Innovating the Future, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Sidra. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I think let's start with a discussion of innovating the future. I think in the first half of the session, we have been all talking about that how the future is going to be and what are the key parameters that drives the future in Pakistan, especially in the economic factor, and then how the lives of the people can be made easy by using this innovation in technology, and how what is the impact on the economy by all the banking sector, the telecommunication sector, and how and which direction the country is moving on. I'm very pleased to have Aurangzeb Sahab to be part of my panel today. And I think it's all about how we see innovating the future together and how every industry, which is very much dependent on the backbone of the banking sector and the direction they do today to make to the future and go to the next level where we are looking at today. So, Assalamu alaikum, Aurangzeb Sahab. Welcome to the panel discussion. I think the first thing that I would like to start about is we have already talked about where the direction of Pakistan is going on. I think the first part will be what are the global trends at this point of time when we talk about digital economy, when we talk about financial inclusion, and where the world is going on, and then we connect it to Pakistan, that how these trends can be worked out in Pakistan. So over to you on that front first.
Gee, thank you, Saquib, and thank you once again, Nutshell Conferences, for the invitation. Much appreciated. जैसे आपने अभी जिक्र किया, and let's start with sort of the global views. Is already a very educated audience, so I am not saying something which people won't know, but just to sort of rejig our memories. So I think there are sort of three broad trends which are going on when it comes to digital finance globally. The first one is where things are moving towards the breadth and length of financial services and products being offered through a single platform. So ये जो सारी movement है towards platform companies is going to get more and more momentum, and therefore you see banks, you see payment providers, you see fintechs, all in some sense gobbling up startups, around the world. So यहाँ हमने 2021, obviously in the context of Pakistan, we have celebrated very important milestone in terms of $300 million of investment coming into the startups. But if you put it in the context of global numbers, so just the first half of 2021, the VC funds invested roughly $60 billion, in sort of these startups. So that also shows the potential that Pakistan can have if we continue on this trend, because the pool of money out there is huge. That's the first trend. The second one is कि जो हम सबको हमें नज़र भी आ रहा है, and the discussion around decentralized finance, right? So we talk about blockchain, we talk about non-funded tokens, we talk about crypto की बात हो रही थी. So I think this is all going to be quite interesting in terms of blockchain in terms of distributed ledgers. So decentralized finance is a second trend which we should all keep in mind as we move forward. The last one, abhi hum Governor Bakar ko bhi sun rahe the, the role of the central banks, I think is going to be very, very important. That while on one side, most of the central banks are not buying into the crypto story, but number of them are looking at issuing their own digital currencies. So in China, we'll probably now see the launch of the e-yuan as we sort of go forward. And so the whole regulatory environment is, I think, going to be very important. And staying with China, where we saw the e-commerce boom, and now essentially during 2021, a huge techlash, right? So we have seen what the regulatory environment and the governments can do in sort of resetting the tech stack, which were with the likes of Alibaba's and Tencents of the world and JD.coms of the world. So ye, I think, jo regulatory framework hoga, both globally and then within Pakistan, is going to be, very, very important as a key enabler. And that's where, some of the more developed countries are bringing in regulators who have the requisite background and expertise as well. So one example would be, and then I'll stop here, would be the new chairman of SEC in the US. He was a professor of blockchain technology at MIT. So if you have that kind of regulator coming in, that can be, pretty interesting in terms of, what the future landscape is going to be in digital finance.
I think the three important pillars that you mentioned, and especially talking about regulators, and I think as you just mentioned and giving that example of the professor of blockchain coming as a regulator, I think that is where the direction of the world is going in. We need the experts, because the whole way of working that we are doing at this very point of time is completely changing. And we need experts at the key positions to guide us and regulate the things which can help us in adopting the way every economy is working. And I think we can talk about the principles over here that you mentioned, because at every country, the role is different and they are in a different economic situation. So it's very important that the regulator is the right guy who can help us in regulating the things. So thank you very much for that insight. Now, moving on from the global trends, let's talking about, because everybody talked about in the first session, the way Pakistan has handled COVID, and there has been a very important role of the banking industry over there as well, especially considering the fact about the Assass program, which has been very proudly talked about. So I would like to a little bit understand that what has been the HBL role in helping in a little bit detail with the Assass program, especially going out and reaching to the people, and how you are able to connect it to the people end to end there.
When it comes to technology, digitization, etc., and when we talk about scaling it up, ultimately, what's going to make or break is the adoption and the greater good that will bring to the society. So it was really in that context that पिछले साल जब COVID came through, and in the early months where the daily wage earners had to be taken care of by the government, and they came up with the Assass Emergency Cash Program, which is the largest social safety net program, not only in Pakistan, but actually in South Asia. So that's where we then came in and partnered with Dr. Sania Nishtar's team in terms of dispersing these funds in Punjab, Balochistan, Sindh, and Islamabad Capital Territory. So we disperse roughly 145 billion rupees to roughly 12 million families. So जैसे अभी Governor Bakar भी कह रहे थे, 12 million families with an average household of about 6 per household, you're talking about touching the lives of close to 70 million people in Pakistan, which is indeed 1/3 of the country's population as we speak. And this could not have been possible without the role of technology, without the use of our Connect platform, because at the peak of COVID, we have the largest branch network in the country, 1700 branches hai. At the peak of COVID, and while all of this was going on, 1/3 of our branch network was closed, in line with the rest of the industry as well. So जो कैंप्स में हुआ, जिस तरह बायोमेट्रिक वेरिफिकेशन हुई, इसमें नादरा का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल था, but we could not have gone through this, and we continue to go through this because as part of a regular Assass Kafalat program, we continue to disperse close to 4 million women on an ongoing basis. वो तो Assass emergency cash program था, but the regular payments to the needy women, that continues as we go forward through this Connect platform and the use of digitization, and that's roughly about 30 billion rupees on an annual basis.
Yeah. I think this is where the technology comes in. I think it's not anymore about one industry that takes care of how to make the life of the people better. Because if we see from the banking industry over here, we are talking about technology, we are talking about innovation, we are talking about reaching to the people, we are talking about the complete digital supply chain that becomes impactful, and that's where the impact of the banks come in, where they are able to hold that innovation in their heads and able to implement them as well. I think ये चीज़ बहुत important है कि किस तरह आज हम इस banking innovation के through end-to-end end user and customer के पास पहुंच रहे हैं, which are able to reach out to the right group of people, and that makes the difference. If 70 million people, as mentioned, are the ones that are getting impacted through one, and we are going to be being provided, it's a great achievement from the HPL front and overall from the banking fraternity there as well. A little bit changing the discussion and talking about a public-private partnership over here. HPL has been very forthcoming around that they would like to go into it. They are trying to help government in different ways, but just forging around and seeing how the public-private partnership can be helped around in the private sector as well in the public sector of Pakistan. There is different initiatives. There is one initiative that I heard with Pakistan Post that HPL is also talking about and thinking about taking on. So how do you see that public-private partnership taken on by the banking sector, and give an example from HPL side with Pakistan Post, a little bit elaborating on that one?
Ji, Saquib, so again, technology, digitization, this is all about possibilities. And actually, once you build the pipe, the pipe jo humne ye Assass ke liye we built it, so you can continue to come up with new use cases in the context of public-private partnership. So, जो examples मैं आपको दूंगा वो ये है कि during 21 we started the subsidy payments to the farmers in conjunction with the government of Punjab and KPK. तो ये जो आपने अभी बात की है वो बहुत important बात है कि the importance of digital finance in this is कि एक तो transparency है, number one. Number two, these are targeted subsidies. So the recipients are, there is no issue कि जी सही recipient को पैसा मिला या नहीं मिला. And the third thing is the ease of doing this. So fertilizer की जो subsidy है, so previously the farmers would have to go buy the fertilizer and then later on ask and seek for reimbursement. Now, again with sort of biometric verifications, etc., with the help of the Kisan card, they get identified. And at the dealer, they just have to pay, they have to make net payment. So targeted subsidy already उसमें included हो चुकी होती है. Another use case would be where we are working with the government of Sindh, where we are dispersing stipends, again using the Connect platform and these digital channels, to hundreds and thousands of female students to carry on their education. So yes, some of those use cases, and then a lot of my industry friends are sitting here. So the industry is helping out, again using the digital channels in terms of the large-scale collection of tax revenues. So yeah, with FBR, we are going to further step it up in terms of the new initiatives by the government. But these are all those use cases which are going to come into the picture. And Pakistan Post, I'll just hold back because we're hopefully during the course of this month, we will be signing the formal contract with them. But वहाँ भी thought process यही है कि how do we sort of revolutionize the whole, the postal service and bring them into really into the front line of service providers using the digital technology.
That's excellent. If we think over the examples that has been given from the education side, from the agriculture side, talking about the digital supply chain from the post side, and we thought about that how banks are connecting the innovation along with the backbone that is there, I think it's a great impact on the overall society that we are interacting with. So, and that's the impact that innovation and technology brings in today. And we don't realize that at which very touch points of our lives, this innovation and technology is impacting the life of the people around us as well. So all these are very great examples. Since we are talking about a little technology, you see there is a lot of discussion on cloud these days. That there are different cloud solutions, the data cannot go outside Pakistan, the residency can be anywhere, the regulations of State Bank are defined, the PTA are there. How do you take about the cloud solutions and their implementation in Pakistan, and do you see what are the regulations that are further required which will help the banking sector in using the cloud solution to its maximum capacity?
देखिए, one thing is very clear कि cloud is one way of ensuring the bottleneck that comes in terms of the infrastructure support. And if you have to scale it up, this is quite frankly the only way to do it most efficiently and the quickest way to getting it done. Ab jo international clouds hain like Amazon, I mean that cloud obviously provides many analytical tools and service tools as well, which can be used as required. लेकिन जैसे आपको इल्म है, this has been a regular point of discussion with the State Bank. I think we have moved the needle in terms of their approvals, at least in terms of the non-customer data, in moving that across to usage, non-customer usage into cloud infrastructure. There are still reservations with respect to the customer data going in there. But ultimately, I think we have made good strides, Saquib, and we are moving in the right direction. But there's a lot more to do because जब हम digital Pakistan की बात करते हैं, वो without moving to the cloud infrastructure in totality, we will not be able to get there within the time frame that we would like to get there.
I think absolutely right. I myself coming from the technology company, I think I absolutely agree with you that moving forward is the direction towards the cloud, and overall the regulatory affairs should be very much be in line with that one to help overall the industries to use the best use of the technology that is available today. I think it's very difficult for every company in their respective industry to take care of the infrastructure, and if infrastructure can be taken care by the technology vendors by themselves, it will help the industry to focus on the areas which they are expert about. So I think that's very relevant on that front. I think just remaining on the regulations, how do you see State Bank is helping you out, or the new policies that they are bringing in? Is there anything that has improved with time, or is there more areas that you would like to see them as part of the digital State Bank policy as well, which can help growth for you in the banks and help the people of Pakistan in another sense?
Well, again, with respect to State Bank, the way they have started the consultation process over the last couple of years, not only just limited to the banks or the commercial banks, but they've spread it out, and number of IC faces sitting here and senior leaders sitting here who are part of that overall ecosystem which has come under the purview of the consultative process that State Bank has started. So अभी ये जो digital licenses का अभी framework आया है, I think it's very progressive, it's forward looking, from our perspective it's very exciting in terms of at least getting the journey started in that direction. और उसके अलावा obviously number of things which have happened in the payments platforms. We've seen the introduction of RAS. So in that sense, State Bank not only has been very forthcoming in terms of the COVID measures, etc., जो Governor Bakar भी बात कर रहे थे in terms of turf and Rozgar scheme, etc., but the way they have taken a proactive stance around changing customer behaviors, right? Because मैं वो बार-बार एक ही चीज़ दोहराता हूँ कि जो 21 में और 20 में हुआ around the customer behavior, there are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks in which decades happen. So with respect to this digital adoption in terms of customer behavior, that's exactly what has happened. सो इसलिए स्टेट बैंक का वो अगेन मैंने शुरू वहाँ से किया था कि रेगुलेटर्स का बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल होगा in terms of taking this ecosystem forward. So I think they've taken some very positive steps and they've been very progressive about it.
I recently attended a course in INSEAD, and one of the topics that were talked about was that how overall you can want to invest in a certain country. And the three parameters that they defined out was clearly the ease of doing business, and then the regulatory institutions, how much they are independent in making the decision-making process that they do. And the third important factor that they talked about, and which was, they said that the recent invention in the whole thing was the happiness index of that specific country that we are talking about. So when these three things get together, then they were mentioning about that is the country that they would like to put their investments on there. And I think that's what you rightfully, the second point that you highlighted in terms of the importance of the regulatory framework and their importance, how independent they are in the respective countries to make the decisions that can help overall the growth of the economy as well. In your last point, you talked about a little bit customer experience here. What has happened in Pakistan that our customers are getting much more educated, and they are getting much more experience, and they are getting much more technology savvy as well. They now want all these technologies at their hand, and they want to do all these things of customer experience management on day-to-day basis and improve them as well. How do you see in the HBL and in the banking sector the role of customer experience management, how we can improve it further in terms of the people of Pakistan with their technology savviness as it's improving day by day?
देखिए, with all the banking friends sitting here, digital or analog or anything, customer centricity obviously has to be there. And अब हुआ ये है कि with this whole progression on the digital side, what are the customers looking for? They're looking for faster, cheaper, better. That's one. The second is उनके जो choice sets हैं वो बढ़ गए हैं, and the cost and ease of switching, has become, pretty endemic, right? So बड़े आसानी से अपने service providers को अब, पहले branches में जाना पड़ता था, branches account बंद करें, किसी और में जाके फिर KYC, AML, go through that kind of process. So that means that within the industry, and then certainly within HBL, we have to take stock of all of these developments, which have been, as I said, which have been really galloping over the last two and a half years. So what does that mean? That means that we have to bring in, the right design thinking at the product and process level. We have to, हमारा जो mobile app है, whatever, constantly looking at the UI, UX, so the whole customer experience part of it. Then अभी हमारी बात हो रही थी around data and the data analytics, because we have invested quite a bit of funds into our data lake, and the first set of reports on data analytics are coming through, because that's going to be critical. Because increasingly the clients and the customers are going to be looking for more bespoke solutions, right, as part of this whole digital journey. And then the last part of it is also what we do at the back end. So वहाँ robotic जो process automation है, RPA, in almost every single process that we touch, the more we take the human interaction and element out of it, and we sort of push it in the RPA direction, ये सारी जो combination है, that is going to, वो जो बात करते हैं, how do you delight the customer? So HBL, quite frankly, we are in, a very early part of our journey. I'm very clear we have a long way to go, but I'm also equally clear that we have started on the right path and the right track. But it's a long journey.
Yeah, I think rightfully said on that, very friend. I think in the first session it was talked about that the millennials and everybody is coming in, their thinking pattern is totally different. And if we talk about the banking 20 years back, from typical branches, standing in the lines, and from the side today, where we hardly go to the branch today, and our whole experience is going through that digital or IT to judge how we are able to achieve the results that we are looking at. Although this digital and IT is very good in the cities, people are educated, they are able to reach out to the people. But when we talk about with most of the population coming out on the villages and we are talking about the people who are still trying to get connected to the technology, how do you see that you have to go beyond this? You know, this customer experience in the cities is a different manner, but how we can increase our reach to the people in the villages and how your bank can do a certain role around that one as well?
देखिए साकिब, this is very important because we have talked about digital and digital finance, but digital finance is not an end in itself. और हमें इसको इसी तरह सोचना चाहिए. It's a means to an end, and that end is more financial inclusion. As we bring more and more people into the formal financial system, which in itself is now going digital. तो इसलिए I think we'll have to reverse our thinking कि हम इस actually करना क्या चाह रहे हैं as we go forward, and through our own experience. मैंने पहले भी कहीं जिक्र किया था कि 2018 तक it took us 70 years as the largest financial institution in the country to get to a client base of 12 million. We closed in December 2021 at a client population of 25 million. Now, we did not do anything vis-a-vis our brick and mortar, kuch upar, kuch niche, but it was essentially the branchless banking platforms and whatever we thought in terms of mobile first thought process. तो इसलिए हमें जो सोचना है वो ये है कि how do we actually move towards financial inclusion and use this digital technology to get that going. और ये जो आपने बात की है ये बहुत important है because you don't need the Apple phones and all of that good stuff. अब ये जो latest December में launch हुआ है the Assass mobile account, right, AMA. So that is feature phone, right? और उसमें आपने *2262# करके you're going to send the message out, your account is going to be opened. Now in technical lingo, it's level 0 account, so 25,000 तक अगर आपने कोई account खोलना है और आपकी transactions की limit उसके नीचे है, which is a large part of our population can be served that base. So that's a good starting point in terms of the ease of opening through digital means. And now we have to, again, as an industry, we have to build more use cases around it. क्योंकि हमने एक्चुअली लोगों को इंसाइट करना है, इंसेंटिवाइज करना है कि why should they leave the cash economy and come into the formal economy through the digital channels. So a lot of work, quite frankly, cut out at our end as HPL, but overall in the industry as well.
Thank you very much. Aurangzeb, as we are coming to the end of the discussion, any final message to the people?
देखिए मैं सिर्फ एक बात कहना चाहता हूँ कि हमने we spent bulk of the last 20-25 minutes talking about digital and digital technology, and I think that's very important. Lekin innovation is not just technology and digitization. Innovation is also thinking out of the box. और उसमें मैं सिर्फ एक example मैं HPL की ये देना चाहता हूँ कि जो हमने जो कुछ pilots किए हैं with respect to our agriculture interventions. क्योंकि ज़्यादा thought process ये है कि जी जो farmers हैं उनको subsidies मिलनी चाहिए, उनको interest rate free loan मिलने चाहिए, लेकिन हमने उसको थोड़ा सा reverse engineering की. So rather than thinking of financing the farmer, we said let's finance the crops. So maize के हमने pilots किए, rice के pilots किए, तो हम उसमें कर क्या रहे हैं पिछले 2 साल से कि we buy the inputs for the farmers. And now talking about small farmers, कि उनकी खाद और बीज हम लेकर उन्हें दे रहे हैं. Then we have agronomists. जी 1 minute. तो we have agronomists जो उनको जाकर small farmers को advise करते हैं कि किस तरह उन्हें बीज और खाद इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए. फिर we bring in mechanized farming, so it's more precision in terms of sowing and harvesting. And then we also agree on their final offtake with the companies who come and buy this. इसका जो फ़ायदा हुआ है और ये हमें Princeton Institute ने validate कर दिया है ये कि the yields have gone up by 22%, and by reducing the role of the middleman or the aarti, the amount of money which has gone into the pockets of the small farmers has gone up by 100%. And now, inshallah, we are in the process of scaling it up, taking it to southern Punjab, KPK, Balochistan, Gilgit-Baltistan, because that's another way of approaching the agriculture GDP and inshallah growing that GDP in the country. It's not really technology driven, but it is innovation in terms of out-of-box thinking. Thank you.
Excellent. I think we talked about today overall the global trends. We talked about which direction Pakistan in terms of the state bank and the regulator that is important. We talked about innovation and technology, the impact on the life of the people and how we can make the life of the people better. And we also clearly talked about that, especially in the agriculture portion, and how we can increase and reach out to the masses to that very front, which can help the whole the technology front. When I talk about innovation and technology, it's an horizontal way now of reaching to the masses, because all the industries now are standing on this horizontal framework of innovation and technology and trying to help the people in Pakistan and try to make the life of the people better in Pakistan. Thank you very much, Aurangzeb, and looking forward for all these initiatives to be complete in our next talk, where you will talk about the success of these one as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. May I request you to kindly stay up on the head table? We just have a couple of souvenirs as a token of our gratitude that will be going with you. But thank you, Aurangzeb, for emphasizing that innovation is just not limited to technology, because that's the first thing that comes to our mind. But of course, there's so much happening. The commodity price that the Governor of State Bank also alluded upon, and food security, they are very much going to be the crux of our focus at the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request the Chairman of the Board of Investment, Mr. Assass, to please join us up on stage and present these books as a token of our appreciation. I cannot help but keep wondering, a big round of applause, of course, ladies and gentlemen. I can't help but continue coming back to the choice of book, which is so appropriate. At the Future Summit, we talk about if stones could speak, echoes from the past. These two books will of course be going with both of you gentlemen as a token of our appreciation and gratitude for your valuable time and contribution at the 5th Future Summit. Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb, the President and the CEO of HBL, the largest financial institution of Pakistan, and also the Vice Chairman of the Pakistan Business Council. We'd like to present the second one to the Country Managing Director, Pakistan and Afghanistan of SAP, the person at the helm of the Technology and Innovation Affairs, Mr. Saquib Ahmad. Gentlemen, may I request you to come together for a group photograph? May I also request Mr. Ali Akai, Ms. Rabia Ahmad, and Air Chief Marshal Suhail Aman Sahab to please join us up on stage. This important conversation that our viewers are also watching live on the Nutshell group Facebook pages, the Martin Dow Facebook page, and of course at the Nutshell YouTube channel. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.